Hello, my fabulous book friends. Welcome back to my channel. So today you are watching part 2 of my top 2020 reads. Thank you again to Hillary for suggesting my previous video. If you haven't seen it, I will link it down below, or I'll try to do those card things, whatever they're called. I don't know if it'll work. If it works, it's up here somewhere. If it doesn't, I'll just link it down below. Excuse my newbiness. At times I just stare at my bookshelves. It's like, what do I include? So this one was a struggle, I'm not gonna lie. I did make it out, like my BIPOC POC one, I made sure that it was mostly 2020 reads, and then like my honorable mentions were older books. But this one, I just have a straight top 10. However, I didn't read enough 2020 books that I truly enjoyed to include it. So actually my favorite, my top one of the year, or sorry, my top one of this video is a 2019 release, but the paperback had released in 2020. So I think that counts. Anyway, so let's get right into it. So book 10, it was a really great YA mystery, which is why it's on here, and that is I Killed Zoe Spanos by Kit Frick. First off, this is beautiful. I really liked this book. I loved it. It was such a good, it had a really great podcast element to it, which I think was fun. And I really liked Sadie by Courtney Summers. But I think I like this one better. It topped Sadie, so that's why this is in my top 10, because I think it was a great book. It was interesting. It had a really crazy twist at the end that like you kind of could guess, but you couldn't really say until it was confirmed. So as the second it was confirmed, I was like, yes. But anyways, so I think this is a really good one if you're looking for YA mystery, if you're into that podcast element. I'm pretty sure the audiobook for this would be fantastic. Okay, book 9 is also a thriller mystery, and that is The Herd by Andrea Bartz. I really liked this book. It was kind of like very woman-centered, if you know what I mean. Like, it was woman empowerment. It was all about an office space that was ran by women, for women, and it was meant to it was an exclusive society almost. And the twist at the end was crazy, I'm not gonna lie. It was also purple, which, hello, purple. I love purple. So The Herd is basically about, like I said, this elite woman club, if you will, and it's basically a safe workspace for all women. However, the owner or the creator of this is actually found dead in the office, so it's kind of like a whodunit mystery. Yeah, with a group of 4 friends, I think 4 or 5, and yeah, so everybody kind of goes crazy, and it's great. It's insane, but it's so good. It's like a slow burn, but also a really high intense kind of thriller mystery of, like I said, whodunit. So yeah, I highly suggest. Book 8 is also a thriller mystery, I guess, but it's not your average one, and that is Long Bright River by Liz Moore. This book definitely comes with content warnings, so drug abuse, things like that. So be aware if you want to read this. This really isn't your typical like crime or police detective mystery. It's more of a family drama, if you will, but I think it's done really well. It's written great. I know the book is long. This is probably the longest book I've read in 2020. Maybe, don't quote me on that. It was really quick to get through, and yeah, I really love it. And if you've noticed, or if you haven't looked, so this kind of looks like a river, right? But you can also interpret this as like the track marks on a drug addict's like arm. So I think that's how I looked at it, but I think that that's very powerful if I'm right. That's how I interpreted it. If I'm probably wrong, like I'm not great at interpretation at all. But yeah, so that's why I think like even the title Long Bright River, that is kind of tied to like drug use. So yeah, again, be wary of this. Basically, it's about 2 sisters. One is a cop, one is a drug addict, and the sister who is the drug addict goes missing. So the cop is kind of trying to investigate, but also like kind of maneuver her way around, bureaucratic stuff and bad cops and all that. So yeah, like I said, family drama. It's not the average mystery that you might look for. So, I mean, if you are new to mysteries, maybe start with this one, because I think that it's not so like mystery in your face. It's more like, it's kind of like a little dip in the water of a crime novel. So going back to what I said about not having liked enough 2020 books to fully come up with a list of 10 books for you, that's why I'm really wary to have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab on this list. But again, like, I did like it, but it's going to be on everybody's list, just like with The Vanishing Half. If you watched my last video, it's just going to be on everybody's list. So that's why I didn't really want to include it, because again, like, it's everywhere. It's unnecessarily everywhere, this one at least. So, but I mean, I did like it. It wasn't what I thought it was. It was more of a character-driven novel. I thought it would be more fantasy-related, but I really liked it. I mean, it was my first V.E. Schwab book in general, so I liked her writing. I liked the style. I'm not going to go too much into this book. I'm sure you know quite a lot about this one. So, yeah, I mean, I'm so upset. My sticker ripped the cover too, so I'm really upset about that. That's why I don't photograph at least the front. I try to do the spines if I can. But yeah, so. But this book was great enough to be book 7 on this list. I feel like if you're like me and don't read fantasy, or you're trying to like find a book that pushes genre boundaries, I think this would be a good place to start. But I do have another book I want to talk about that's similar to this, but I like better. Clearly because it's higher up on this list. Okay, I could not let 2020 go by without putting this one on my list. The Book of Two Ways by Jodi Picoult. Not my favorite book from her. I think she's written much more intensive novels than this one, but I mean, it did make me cry, so that's always a bonus. I probably won't recommend this to everybody. The first little bit of the novel was definitely very time consuming to read, and it was so information heavy about Egyptology and all that stuff, so it was a little bit of a very slow start for me, but it did pick up to a fantastic ending, which I loved. So this book is basically about questioning, like, if you chose one path in life, what if you can go back and change the next path? So I'm not gonna lie, I was a little confused. I thought, like, with the jumping timelines, I thought it was more of like a book about her going back in time and choosing the path that she wanted to go on and how that would have turned out. So that's what I thought this book was going to be, but it wasn't about that at all. So basically our main character gets into a very scary situation, so that's what made her question about her life choices. So then she goes on a plane and goes to find basically her lost love, which is so adorable. I think there are no loose threads at the end, so I think it's if you've read Jodi Picoult before, you'll definitely like this, don't worry. If you haven't read her before, I suggest you start somewhere else. All right, are you ready for the top 5 of 2020? So number 5 would be Wildland by Rebecca Hodge. This book was such a great adventure novel. I thought it was definitely high intense. A lot of scary situations in here. Basically, it's about a woman who is coming to terms with her own life and the situation she's in. So she kind of goes on a little retreat to a place in the mountains where she's been before. And while there, she meets 2 kids, and the kids really like her. So she has them over for a night, and then a fire happens and it gets scary. So basically, she is alone in a mountain foresty area with burning trees all around her, and she's got 2 kids and 2 dogs, I believe, to take care of, and she really has to push herself and be strong for everybody, and like come up with ways to kind of get out of the situation and make sure everybody makes it out safe. So yeah, adventure book, so good. It is definitely a book that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Okay, book 4. So like I said, this is the book that I think I would recommend to you more than The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that is A Witch in Time by Constance Sayers. This book is kind of sounded like the same to me, but I do think that the execution of this one was a lot better than Addie LaRue, just because it was definitely more magical realism, or fantastical, if you will. Let me just read the description for you, because I know there is no way that I would ever be able to explain this to you all properly. In 1895, 16-year-old Juliet begins a passionate, doomed romance with a married artist. In 1932, aspiring actress Nora escapes New York for the bright lights of Hollywood and a new chance at love. In 1970, Californian musician Sandra's secret love affair threatens to tear her band apart. And in 2012, Helen is starting to have vivid dreams about ill-fated love and lives cut short. Bound to her lover in 1895 and trapped by his side ever since, Helen has lived through multiple lifetimes under different names, never escaping her tragic endings. Only this time she might finally have the power to break the cycle. So yeah, this book was really good. It had romantic elements to it, but it's not like crazy, like steamy scenes, like Take a Hint, Danny Brown, or stuff like that. So yeah, if you are expecting that from this novel, don't, because it doesn't happen. But yeah, like it was just, I think that the situation was much more intense because like she knows that she's gonna die, but she kind of has to, like every time she starts a new life, she doesn't really remember. So she kind of eventually basically has to relearn everything all over again throughout these lives. So yeah, that's what makes this so good. And I think the magical realism elements and fantasy elements to it was a much better introduction to fantasy, for me at least, since again, like I don't read fantasy. So that was a better introduction for me than I think The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was. So that's why this one made the top 5. Some of these books I have read a while ago, I'm just realizing. So the third book on this list is The Woman in the Mirror by Rebecca James, not to be confused with A Woman in the Window by that author A.J. Finn. Yeah, so this is definitely such a really good mystery thriller, if you will. It is phenomenal. It is definitely my favorite thriller of 2020. I loved it that much. So basically this woman finds out that she is an heir to this fortress that's secluded, and she goes there to kind of like basically clean up and stuff like that. But then she finds that there is some kind of, it's haunted basically. So she's trying to figure out why it's haunted, but it's not so horror based as you might think it is. Like, yeah, it did have me a little terrified, I'm not gonna lie, but I think that it was done in a way that wasn't like so cheesy like I think kind of Home Before Dark was, sorry to say. But yeah, so it wasn't cheesy at all. I really enjoyed it. The ending was definitely my favorite part, not because it ended obviously, but because I think that it really explained everything well and gave us a reason why things were the way they were. So yeah, it was really good. So this book has a dual timeline. We mostly see present day Rachel, but we do get flashbacks to 1947 where Alice has accepted a position, and we slowly find out as Rachel is discovering these things, what happened to Alice, who she is. Yeah, so it gets crazy. My top 2 books. So actually book number 2 is basically similar to The Woman in the Mirror now that I'm thinking about it, but it also deals with like an inheritance and going off to a new country to discover basically who you are. But I think this one was done a lot better, and that is The Ancestor by Danielle Truzzoni. This book, I don't even have a genre for it. Like, it's kind of romance, it's kind of horror, it's kind of historical, if you will. So it definitely does not have one genre that it kind of will definitely fit into. This book is so perfect for like Spooktober or anything in between. Like, if you're looking for a spooky read, this I highly recommend. So basically this woman named Bert, I think that's her nickname. Yeah, Alberta or Bert, she basically receives this letter that she is the sole heir of, again, another fortress that's secluded. But she must go in person and I think live there for like a year to accept this inheritance. But while she's there, she does meet some super old family members. She definitely finds some very scary things that have happened, and also some scary things that really do kind of explain her. You know what, if that makes sense. I don't want to spoil too much, but I do want to make sure that you keep this on your radars. I haven't really seen it a lot on Bookstagram, so yeah, make this a note to please read this in 2021. I also feel like this is the perfect atmospheric read for January, like seclusion, cold, frozen stuff. So yeah, definitely read this in winter or October. Okay, my top book of the year, which I literally finished last night. I stayed up to finish it so I can film this video and make sure that I can honestly put it into my top 10. And that is The Editor by Stephen Rowley. I love Stephen Rowley. I loved Lily and the Octopus. That's my favorite book of his. This one comes as a very close second. It was really good. It is basically based on Jackie Kennedy, or Onassis, as I guess that was her maiden or her new name. I don't know. I don't know the history. I don't know much about historical figures. I've never really paid attention. I didn't think to look it up before I read this book, but if you're like me and just don't know much about these figures or anything, it's not an issue. You learn everything you need to know from the book. There's enough context that like you can figure it out. So yeah, it was really good. I love Stephen Rowley's writing style. I think it's so unique. And yeah, just read this book. Read all of Stephen Rowley's books. So this book basically talks about Jackie's time in publishing, which I didn't even realize that she was an editor. Yeah, so sorry about Charlie in the background. But basically, this gentleman writes a book that's based on his family, and he's kind of dealing with the repercussions of that, but also trying to get the best book for Jackie because he is such a huge fan. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of family drama, but a lot of self-discovery, a lot of really interesting moments, really sad moments. Despite the sadness, I did laugh a lot with this just because our characters are so well written. So yeah. So thank you for coming to watch my top 20 books of 2020, which I wasn't going to do, but then ended up doing. I hope you liked this video. Let me know what your top read of 2020 was. Happy New Year. And yeah, leave this video a huge like, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, and I will see you for one more video of 2020, and that will be my December wrap up. See you then.